On June 12, 1976, a man by the name of Billy Daniel Parker walked into Spring Branch Jewelry and Loan Company in Houston, Texas, and purchased Charter Arms Bulldog 44 revolver, serial number 212927, for his Army friend who was driving back to New York, wanted some protection. That Army friend was David Berkowitz. And less than a month later, in the Bronx, New York, David Berkowitz used that Charter Arms Bulldog 44 to seal his fate and become the son of Sam. Let's check it out. Milsurp Garage. What's up, Manny? The Undercurrents with Manny Grossman channel, all his faithful watchers and subscribers. It's an honor to be here to bring you Charter Arms Bulldog 44 so we could take I wouldn't exactly say a deep dive, it's a moderate dive. And we're going to take a look. I don't want to get too technical. I don't want to get too gun geeky with you. But we're just going to cover some interesting topics here that sometimes I hear come up on the channel. I've been a fan for a long time of Manny's channel, and I hear some things pop up sometimes, and I feel like I could shed some insight. I could give you some info that could further the conversation and spark the debate and explain some things that people might be curious about. First of all, I want everybody to feel comfortable. I know not everybody's comfortable around firearms. This is a real firearm. You saw how immediately we do a safety check. Just, I want you to feel comfortable too. I wanted you to understand that there is no live ammo in this area. And if we show bullets, we're going to be showing inert snap caps. These things are completely inert. So actually, if you're interested to get some 44 special snap caps, I'm supplied by a company that's really cool. I'm really not just trying to drop an ad and advertise, but I just thought that your channel members would think these things are awesome. If you want a set of 44 special snap caps that these things resemble the actual bullets, you can go to realisticsnapcaps.com. You could use a coupon code Milsurp Garage, one word, for 10% off. I feel like a huckster, but I really get no money from these guys. I just thought you guys would be like, oh, those things are cool. I wonder how I get a set. Well, that's how you get a set. You don't need any kind of special anything to get these things because they are inert. They're not real bullets. But you want to use some discretion. You don't want to show up at your job if your job doesn't allow you to have ammunition at work. You don't want to show up with a pocket full of these things. Try to explain to your boss what a snap cap is. You know what I mean? It'd be like, snap cap your ass out of here. So you do want to use some discretion and be careful, but if you want them, that's where to get them. So the Bulldog. The Bulldog is a very interesting revolver. It's came about in the early 70s. It was made specifically to sell at a lower price point, and yet it had features that were very unique in the genre of revolvers that were this size. Most revolvers that were this size were 38 specials. This is not much bigger than what a police officer would carry, an off-duty Smith & Wesson 38 revolver, let's say. Meanwhile, you're able to have the big bore size of the 44. And I want to cover this right away. You hear 44 and you're thinking Dirty Harry, you're thinking, like Cannon, so many things in the movies. When you hear 44, they're talking about the 44 Magnum with this whole cannon thing and bullets that are cracking engine blocks and all kind of stuff. There's a lot of moviedom going on there with the 44 Magnum to begin with. It is a very, very powerful round, but it is not anywhere near, the 44 Special is not anywhere near that power. This is actually a much milder round. It's older, and when the loadings became very powerful and they switched to 44 Magnum, which was a longer round to make them not be able to fit in these 44 Special guns, the 44 Special was never really the powerhouse that you're thinking when you hear 44. It's a big bore cartridge, it is powerful, but not much more powerful than a 38 special that's loaded to its highest capacity. Let's say, you know what I mean? It's not the 44 Magnum, basically, is what I'm saying. So you could comfortably fire this gun with one hand. You know what I mean? It's not like one of these monster revolvers that you think. It's actually very small, very light, and this is how we load it up. Again, these are inert rounds. I just want to be very clear. And it's a very unique look to it when it's loaded. Usually you don't have this much of the bullet extending past this flash guard here. And it just has your basic iron sights, no adjustable sights on here. You could fire it either single action or double action. So it's a single action, double action revolver, which means if you just pull the trigger, the hammer will cock and fall, and the cylinder will rotate to go to each different bullet. Or you could cock the hammer back like this, where it sets the trigger back. So it's just a very, very light touch sets it off. In my opinion, it's questionable. I'd love to ask Berkowitz. They never really asked him in his when he was interrogated. Did you cock the pistol when you walked up? Well, not that it really matters, but be interesting just for demonstration purposes to know exactly how he fired it. In my opinion, he probably just carried it in his pocket just like this, pulled it out, and just bang, 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 bang. So we're going to do some range. We're going to do a range visit here. And at the range visit, of course, we're going to be switching to live ammo. So different handling procedures and different protocols are going to be in place for here at the range. And at the range, what I want to try to demonstrate here is I want to try to demonstrate the difference between somebody target shooting this gun and somebody just pulling it out of their pocket in the dark and just hardly being able to even see the sights and just unload it at something that's like the size of a passenger car window, let's say, or what he sees inside of a passenger car window. So we can get an idea of exactly how these shot patterns end up like on a target. I thought that would be kind of an interesting way just to show what it was like, what the report was like, what the recoil looks like, what the flash looked like. I'll try to simulate some dark conditions, and I'll try to simulate what it might have looked like. And let's just see what see what transpires here. Let's check it out. All right, here we are at the range. We got a nice target set up. Got the David Berkowitz jacket on. I got a Charter Arms Bulldog in my pocket. Let's see how this thing operates under certain conditions. While we're out here at the range, I'd like to show you the similarities in size between the Charter Arms Bulldog and a smaller frame Smith & Wesson revolver. This is a Model 36, 1975 vintage. This is a Colt Detective Special 1967 vintage. And you can see these are your basic concealed carry, smaller frame. This is a snub nose. This is just a smaller frame Smith & Wesson. You can see the size. They're comparable. So this would be considered a defensive gun. The fact that Berkowitz was using it in an offensive fashion just shows that it was just a horrible pick for a gun to use for what he was using it for, which is good because a lot of people survived his attack. But it's more or less used as a concealed carry for a defensive purpose as opposed to an offensive purpose, much the same as these other smaller frame revolvers. Here also you could see the difference between the Charter Arms Bulldog and the Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum Model 29. This is the infamous Dirty Harry revolver. You can see the difference in size. As a matter of fact, the 44 Magnum is so much more powerful that I'm not even allowed to fire it here at the range, or I would fire it to show you the difference in the report, the recoil, just the power is it's easily, you can tell easily that it's 3 times the power just by how it looks when you shoot it. But like I said, it's such a powerful round. This range is not even rated for 44 Magnum, so I couldn't even demonstrate that for you here. But yeah, this is the real cannon. This is the monster that you hear about. That legendary cannon. The 44 Special is actually a mild revolver in comparison. What I'd like to do first is just baseline the gun. I'd like to send the target out to 25-foot range that we're going to use here. This is the closest that I can put it. Obviously, Berkowitz was only a few feet away, but for our purposes, this is good because it would show just about in his, if he's standing at the passenger side of a car, somebody's head would be just about the size of the torso of that target. So if he was aiming at somebody's head and he was pulling the trigger, to give an idea of, a lot of people say they come up with theories based on the fact that he fired 5 shots and he didn't get 5 headshots at that distance. How did he not get? How is he not more accurate? Well, what we're going to do is, first thing we're going to do, we're going to just baseline it. We're going to take 5 rounds here. For these, we're using, not quite using what he was using. We're using hollow point, but for our purposes, this is pretty much as close as we're going to get. So we're going to get ears on here so we don't deafen ourselves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to load her up. I'm going to keep all the lights on for now. We're just going to, like I said, the baseline, I'm going to show you that just by resting my elbows on the table here and taking my time and squeezing off each individual shot using single action, I'm going to show you how accurate a revolver like this could be at this distance. Target shooting and taking our time now. Single action. Again, where the shots are hitting on the target isn't necessarily that important right now. What we're just baselining is the group, the grouping of them. I'm aiming in the same spot every time. That's 5 shots. There are the spent shells. See, there's not much smoke. There's not much fanfare. There's not much flame and fire. It's a very controllable. It's a very controllable round. So target shooting, 5 shots. This is what we come up with. So at 25 feet, we're coming up with a grouping. I was aiming dead center here, so it is tracking a little bit low right, low left. It'd be interesting to see if these, sometimes guns, they're kind of like all like that. If one's like that, especially fixed sights guns, of course. Sometimes you notice that in circles when you're sitting there talking about certain guns sitting around in the lounge, guys will say, "Oh yeah, those track low left, those track high right." So it'd be interesting to know if a lot of Berkowitz's shots missed low left. That would be interesting because it does seem to pattern that way. Now, once you start to get to know a gun, you kind of like aim in this area to hit here, and that might be what I would do a little later on when we're going to be doing some rapid fire stuff. Just knowing the gun and trying to get it in this spot. Of course, Berkowitz wouldn't have had the pleasure of doing that. I don't think he ever test fired it or played around with it. I think the only time he used it is when he did his thing. So let's change things around a bit and put us more in the what it looked like when Berkowitz was out at one of his crimes. These were all at night, so let's darken it up a little bit. Let's put the target back out there, and we're going to go with our head cam. So we're going to get like a Berkowitz eye view of the next demonstrations. All right, here we are for our first demonstration. First thing we're going to do, we're going to kill the ambient lights. We're going to kill range lights. I'm going to go with just this on and dim. Better yet, let's turn this off. Let's go with these on. So now there might be some street lights on in the street, but where the victims would be kind of dark. We're going to load her up. And what we're going to do from this demonstration is a two-handed crouch shooting. We're going to kill this light now. And I'm just going to crouch and shoot two-handed at the target. Not target shooting now. This would be like Berkowitz, rapid fire, just all 5 shots all at once. Here we go. Out of his pocket, and we're empty. Let's bring the target in. Let's see what we got. Yep, just as we might have expected. Just like, say, in the Denaro shooting, which was one-handed. But so let's just say for any of the two-handed, even so, at that speed, one hit. Be nice to have a much bigger target to be able to see where the others are actually going, but this is consistent with Berkowitz's performance with the gun. Let's try something else. All right, this time we're going to slow it down a little bit. Let's get the target back out there. This time, what we're going to do, we're going to do one-handed. I'm assuming Berkowitz was right-handed, but even if he was left-handed, I'm sure he was shooting with his dominant hand, let's say. All right, we're all loaded up. Let's kill the light. Got a fresh target out there. I'm going to go one-handed this time, as in the Denaro shooting. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. 5 shots. We're empty. We're unloaded. Let's get the lights on. See what we got going on here. Bring the target home. Strangely enough, it's like one-handed. Did even better than crouched two-handed. It did slow it down a bit. The first that first demonstration with the crouched and shooting fast would be more like the first shooting, where he was just so panicked he even just kept pulling the trigger on empty cylinders afterwards, he said. And again, there might have only been one hit on that shooting. Slowing it down just a little bit, even one-handed. And, I would say that, I have a little bit more experience with shooting, say, big bore revolvers than Berkowitz does. So, but you could see 3 out of 5 on this target isn't necessarily so great either. At this distance, you would think you could still put all 5 in the bullseye, but not necessarily. So, to sum up, this was single action, deliberate, slow, target shooting, elbows braced on the bench, sitting down, plenty of light, 25 feet. This was 25 feet, crouched, standing, rapid fire, as an inexperienced rapid fire can be. This was a slower, more controlled, one-handed, dominant hand. All right, guys and gals, I hope you had a good time. Thanks for joining me here at the range. I love it here at the range. I hope that was insightful. I hope that opens up some, some areas for debate and discussion. And it was helpful. Let's head on back to the Milsurp Garage. All right, range time is always fun. Okay, I just wanted to cover one more thing. I wanted to cover how the NYPD was looking for a Charter Arms Bulldog before Berkowitz got caught. They knew that it was this specific gun. How did that happen? Well, I'm going to explain it to you. We got to get a little technical, but like I said, I'm not going to get too crazy technical. So a cartridge that goes inside a gun consists of 4 components. There's the bullet, the actual projectile, the cartridge case, the primer, which is kind of like a cap that goes on like in a cap gun. That's like a removable part that sticks in there that when it gets hit, it snaps like a cap. And it goes off just enough of a flame, just enough of a fire to set off the 4th component, which is the powder that's inside of this case. It's the powder that propels the bullet down the barrel. Now, in a revolver, these cartridge cases, they stay behind in here like this. When after the gun is fired, you would have these empty cases inside of here. The bullets all shoot out, and the cases stay in here. Now you've seen cartridge cases flying before. That's semi-automatic guns. They eject the brass case. When you're done shooting, you have these brass cases also left all over the place. So Berkowitz did not leave any of these cases behind. He never dumped these brass out and reloaded at any of these crime scenes. They found 3 of these in his apartment when they caught him, but he never left any of these at the scene. And these, there's different things imparted on these. There's lines imparted on these, and extractor marks and breech face marks, and there's marks made by the firing pin that hit the primer. All these marks are identifiable. They're unique to the guns that fire them. They couldn't get any of these markings from any of these cartridge cases. Those were just out the window because he took them with him. He obviously took the gun with him. The only thing left behind was the bullets. So somehow with these bullets, with these projectiles, they were able to identify it was a Charter Arms Bulldog 44. How did they do that? Well, I'm going to explain it to you. Like we were talking about before, the 44 Magnum, 44 Special, they're both 44 caliber. You could fire it out of either gun. Either a gun chambered for 44 Magnum or 44 Special could fire a 44 Special cartridge. So it could have been any gun, any 44 Special or 44 Magnum gun could have potentially fired a 44 caliber bullet. 44 caliber just means it's 0.44 inches wide. So they knew it was a 44 caliber, and what else can they tell from it? Not just the size. They knew it was a 44 caliber. Could have been a Magnum or a Special gun. But the weight of the bullet was 258 grains. It just so happens that 258 grain bullet was specific to a specific Winchester loading for 44 Special. There was no 258 grain loading back then. I'm talking about back then, like in the 70s. There was no loading for a 44 Magnum at 258 grains. So they knew it was a 44 Special round. So now, like I said, it could have been fired out of any 44 Magnum gun. But they knew that it was specifically a 44 special. Now they knew that it wasn't a 44 Magnum bullet. They knew it was a 44 Magnum. They knew it was a 44 special bullet. So how did they determine, out of all those 44 Magnum guns and 44 special guns, how did they determine which one it came out of? Well, inside the barrel of a gun is rifling. It's cuts inside the barrel that go in a spiral fashion, lands in grooves to impart a spin on the bullet as it pushes its way through. And I'm sure everybody's seen CSI. You can see these lines on the side of the bullet. This is a bullet that had gone through a barrel. And you can see the lines that are imparted onto it. Well, those lines are called rifling. And rifling is put in the barrel with several different methods. I tried to memorize these, but I forgot them. So there's one is the broach method, and there's a like cut rifling. There's 4 methods. One of them is called button rifling. And button rifling, basically, again, don't want to get too technical, but it's basically like pulling a carbide button, that they call it. Like, it wouldn't be much different than something that looks like this bullet. Pulling it through the barrel at a certain twist rate, so it actually imparts those lines. It's not actually cut. They're kind of like impressed into the barrel. It was a manufacturing process for rifling that was developed to be faster and cheaper. Like I said, this gun was designed to be cheaper. This cheaper price point, part of it was like a cheaper way to put rifling in the barrel, where you could do it in 5 seconds instead of 5 minutes, and time is money, and that made it them able to charge less for the gun. And that cheaper procedure of using button rifling was specifically for 44, was specifically, no 44 Magnum gun at the time or 44 special gun at the time used the button rifling process, except for Charter Arms with the Bulldog. And the button rifling left distinctive rifling marks that they were able to forensically identify it. If you're into all these forensics and things like that, get this book. Textbook of Firearms Investigation, Identification, and Evidence by J.S. Hatcher. It's a very old book. It's from the 30s. I found one that's in decent shape. There's reprints. And if it's something that interests you, check that out, because that book covers, you'll be an expert at all the stuff I'm talking about and more when all is said and done. So Manny, that's what I got for you. I got to be honest with you, Manny, I did this video like 32 times. And every time I just kept getting too technical. And it's hard. It's hard when you have a channel where that's all you deal with is the technical stuff with firearms. It's really hard to keep things basic. I tried. I hope I kept your guys' interest. And again, I'm a big fan of your channel. It's really an honor to be here. And any questions, you guys can throw it up in the comments. And see you all next time. Check out the Milsurp Garage channel. We do have a video on this gun specifically if you want to do a deeper dive into the gun itself and a bit of the history. And you all take care, Manny. Thanks again.